And good evening, everyone. It's Karen, and I'm here tonight to present Over to You. That was Big in Japan by Alphaville. And tonight, just chatting away to Craig. Craig Burkett, he's an independent estate agent. You might remember that Craig was in April time talking about how to make moving easier. So he's an estate agent. He is here tonight to talk to us about how stressful it can be. In fact, we were all just saying that moving is very, very stressful, and particularly if you've other things going on in your life. So Craig has some really good tips he wants to share with you, so do stay tuned in. So, hello Craig.
Hello.
Lovely to meet you.
You too, thank you.
So Craig, just before we talk about moving and making it less stressful, just tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm an independent estate agent in Huntingdon. This is where I live, and I've lived here since 2014. And yeah, I just run my business to offer a bespoke service, because every house move and everybody is different with different circumstances. So it's just working in a way which really suits the client and their circumstances.
If you don't mind me asking you, when you say bespoke service, what does that mean, Craig?
Well, I look after the whole process from beginning to end, so I understand what the seller's needs are and what their goals are. And then I want to speak to the potential buyers and find out what's important to them, and just really help facilitate that, and be there with everyone all the way through.
And Craig, how did you get into training or becoming an estate agent?
It was I with a larger company called Keller Williams. They're a global company, and all of their agents are independent. So I started with them, and they offer. They have really high sort of standards and values that match my own, and that's what made me just decide to go with them. There's a network all around the country, and we all work very closely, and sort of work in very similar ways.
So moving, we do know. In fact, the thought, I'm even thinking, if I do move someday, I actually feel the stress in my body. Okay, so you're experienced. Okay. Why is it so stressful?
Yeah, the first thing is it can be a big life change for people. And it can be quite daunting. So it's just, I'd try to help people understand what's going to happen, and manage their expectations. Because some of it as well is dealing with lots of paperwork. It's in sort of a legal language, which people don't normally speak like that all the time. That can be quite daunting. There can be a lot of money riding on it. It's a big transaction. It's the biggest purchase you'll ever make in your life with most people. Other things, the timelines, that's probably the most stressful thing. A lot of it can be out of your control, especially if you're in a chain of properties. And not being able to be in control is a stressful thing for a lot of people. It can be the emotional side of leaving a house where you may have lived for a long time. You can feel that you're leaving behind memories. That can be stressful for people. Any unexpected delays, so if there's a break in the chain, similar things happening with a friend at the moment, and unfortunately someone's passed away further up the chain, and it's all of a sudden things are put on hold, so you have to deal with that. And chains can fall through. The average fall-through rate in the UK is 30%. So 30% of sales that have been agreed will fall through, and that there are things in place that I'll talk about which can help reduce that. So what I try to do is just manage people's expectations and try and put a plan in place in supporting them to make it less overwhelming.
So you mentioned a few things there, right? So first of all, being out of control can be very stressful, being part of a chain. I'm just listening to what you've just said. There's a financial cost. There's an emotional attachment. There's the unknown about moving. So, Craig, what would you say is the most important thing to do first when planning a move?
The first thing I'd say is, and I mentioned this before, is to get organised as early as you can, especially if there's things you can do. If you're not in your forever home, if you think, oh, I might move again one time, if you get some things in place, that can really, really help, especially with some of the paperwork that's involved. If you keep all the information on your property, any work you have done on that, just try and be a bit diligent of where you keep all of that, and then when the time comes to move, you've got that already prepared. But having a good idea of your finances, so knowing what your house is worth, what you can afford, speak to mortgage advisors as well. They'll help to help you know how much you can borrow. Getting ahead with speaking with the types of people that you're going to be working with. So speak to an estate agent, find out who's going to work best with you as well. And as well, you need to work with solicitors and conveyancers. So get ahead of time speaking with them. Same with removals companies if you're not planning on doing that yourself. And as well, if you've got children and you're moving to a different area, some of the schools require you to sign up with them quite early on, sort of 9 to 12 months before. So the earlier you can start the ball rolling, the better you'll be in a position to move. OK,
so say hypothetically, I might think of moving, like we're 2025 now, May. Let's say if I decided, OK, I might move April next year, just I start to think about it, start thinking what the process is. How early? What's the first thing I should do, and how early should I start, say, putting that process into action? Yeah, I'd say the minimum you want to give it is 3 months, really. That's a good sort of average of giving people enough time to get some things together. The main thing is, as well, what is your motivation? Because sometimes people don't have the luxury of time. You might have had a new job come up, or financial circumstances have changed. So sometimes that's out of your control. But I'd say at least 3 months. And depending on how much time you do have to allocate, that'll give you time to, like I said, get quotes from different estate agents, solicitors and removals companies, so you can get a feel of who you want to work with, and they can explain some of the processes. It'll give you time to sort of clean up the house if you need to, get any work done on the property if there needs to be any repairs or like decoration that you want to do. So say, Craig, I'm inexperienced, I don't know an awful lot about moving, or I'm trying to do it all on my own. I mean, are you a good person even to talk to about what kind of things to start thinking about? Yeah, because I'm here to help everyone, whatever stage they are in the moving process. Thinking ahead, knowing what you want in your next property. I speak to a lot of people, and sometimes they're not quite sure what they want, and it is hard because houses aren't like, you don't go to the supermarket and there's a nice row of the same houses on the shelf. There can be a house come up for sale, and you'll see that and think, oh, I really like that. If you've got some of these things in place, then that can really help. And I imagine you do meet a lot of people, Craig, who are inexperienced and do need that kind of support from you. Yeah, and things change as well. So, some people might not have, the last time they moved might have been a few decades ago. So things change in that time, and just the way the world works as well. There's a lot of digital aspects to it now. Sometimes you have to send documents over online, but there's ways that we can help with that, especially if people aren't too computer savvy. I'm not there to say, that's not my job. I'll help people whatever way they need help to get the process moving. Okay, it's great having you here tonight, because we can see there's an awful lot involved in moving. So we'll come back to you after a short break. And tonight we're talking to Craig Burkett. He's an independent estate agent based in Hertford, and he is here tonight to help us all think about moving when we have to move, and how to make it more stressful. So you gave a lot of points, right, just before the break, Craig. So now I just want you to walk us through a basic moving timeline from accepting an offer to moving day. What does that look like?
Yeah, this is where the conveyancing process takes over, and can be the most stressful time for people, because this is where delays can happen, or things can happen in the chain. But to begin with, you'll put in an offer and it will be accepted, and that's great. And the agent will put out what's called a memorandum of sale, and they'll check that you've got the funds to pay for the property, either through mortgage or cash. Check your ID, and they'll do a thing called anti-money laundering checks, because there's big sums of money being transferred. So that's one of the things legally they have to do. Both the buyer and seller use solicitors, and they'll need proof of fund. They have to do their own checks as well, and this is one of the stressful things. People think, why are they asking me for this? I've already done this. But because the conveyancers, actually the money goes through them, or a portion of it goes through them, they have to do their own legally, because they're doing that. The sellers will fill out what's called property information forms, and these are things that are good to get done early on. It includes information that's about the property that the estate agent has to use for any descriptions, but it also includes all the things that you're going to include in the sale, any fixtures or fittings, and that has to be completed legally. The earlier you can get them done, then once you've got a buyer ready, you haven't then got to go and do it. It's already done, so it's good to get ahead on those things. But the seller's conveyancer then gets the information from land registry, and they prepare a draft document. And this draft document's sent to the buyer's conveyancer, and then they have to check it, and they apply for what's called searches. So this goes through the local authorities, and this is where timelines can change a bit. Usually it's about 2 to 3 weeks, but it depends on the local authority, how much work they've got going through as well. And then once that's been done, any issues that have come up can be reviewed by the buyer's conveyancers, and this is when it can lead to more questions and more time, but they call these inquiries. That's the official term for that, but it's just if you've got some questions where things don't quite match up, they need to be ironed out. So there can be some backwards and forwards between the buyers and sellers' conveyancers, and you might need to provide more paperwork or information if it hasn't satisfied the questions that they do have. And while this is going on, the buyer, if they want to, if they need to, they'll be applying for a mortgage or get their mortgage properly moving, and they might have some surveys carried out. The surveys can then throw up some more questions, so they have to be sorted out between all parties. But once the mortgage has been instructed, so the lender, they do their own survey, and they have a conveyancer on their behalf. The reason they do a survey is because they need to make sure the property that's being sold is worth what they're going to lend the money on, because it's their risk that they're taking to lend the money out on that. But once they're happy, the buyer's conveyancer's happy with all the searches, all the inquiries have been resolved, and the mortgage instructions all done, they report that to the buyer. And then if they're happy, they read through the contract, sign it, but they don't date it, because you leave it undated, ready for the exchange date. The seller gets an identical contract, and they go for it, and if they're happy, they sign it, but leave the dates changed, or blank, sorry. The deposit isn't paid as well. It's normally about 10%, and that's paid when the contracts are exchanged. And that's paid to the solicitor, so the money goes through them. And if they're selling at the same time, some of that deposit is paid with the money they receive from the sale of their property. But the contracts can be exchanged when everyone in the chain, if there is one, are all ready. And if there is a chain, they all need to take place on the same day. And this is when it can add into stress, because there's lots of things out of people's control. But it's important at this point where the estate agents communicate between themselves, so they can just get everyone ready and prepared for that date of exchanging contracts. And then once they're exchanged, the completion date's set, so that's for when they can all move in, and all the money to be transferred. So at this point, once the contracts are exchanged, that's when all the buyers and sellers are legally committed. Before that point, that's anyone can pull out, and that's why it can be really stressful. There are things called reservation agreements in place now. So as I mentioned, about 30% of UK property sales fall through. And reservation agreements have been put in place, which reduces that to about 6%. And what it does, the buyers and sellers, they pay a small fee, and they agree terms between themselves, and it just means that everybody's committed. No one's going to gazump anyone, no one's going to gazunder, no one's going to go, a new house down the road's for sale, I think I might buy that one. Everyone's committed, because it's such a big, important process and commitment. You need to make sure everyone's working fairly. But then when that's all done, the buyers' conveyancers, they tell their lenders that the completion date's been agreed, they have the money transferred, and then any balances are transferred through to the conveyancers, and they, on the completion day, they instruct the banks to transfer the money. So if there is a chain, it has to move, money transfers move all the way up the chain as well. So that can be a bit of a stressful process, because especially if there's any IT issues or anything like that. And then once that's all done, people can get their keys and move in. And then, the buyers conveyancers, they pay for the stamp duty, so that's a tax on property purchases. And then they apply with the land registry for the new ownership. And then that takes a couple of weeks. And then the buyers will have the documents to say that they legally have the house.
So, Craig, I imagine, right? I mean, there's obviously an awful lot involved, okay? And we're only human, and I imagine a lot of people make mistakes. Are there any common mistakes that people make that they can avoid? Yeah,
so one of the things I've mentioned is having the paperwork ready, making sure you've got the copies of the title deeds, any warranties you have on the property, or any certificates for any work that you've had on. If you have double glazing fitted, you need to get a fencer certificate. That just means it's been done to a specific or good standard. If you don't have some of these certificates, you may have not been supplied it by a contractor. There are things that the solicitors can do, like indemnity insurance, to sort of overcome that. But if you had any work done, you need copies of your planning permission or building regulations on that. Not having any paperwork in place, you'll just find out that you'll be getting so far down the line, and then these things will crop up. And that's where it causes stress, because people are like, we want to move. So get that ready early. Another thing that can slow down the moving process is overpricing the home. That can delay, if the price is too high for what the market is currently saying, or people are happy to pay at that point in time, you can be stuck on the market just with your house not getting any inquiries. And especially if you've seen a house that you want to get moving quickly, and overvaluing a property is an issue which can cause it to just delay your whole moving process. And then just working with a good estate agent and solicitor who are going to get the moving process done quickly is really useful.
So some of the main tips would be not overpricing your house. It sounds like you've mentioned quite a few times being organised is very important. Yeah. Being on top of your paperwork would be the main things. Having a good estate agent, solicitor. Any other tips to make it, say, less stressful?
Just having a plan as well, what you want to do. If they're selling, if they haven't already sold, it's trying to, because you could see a house and think, I really like that, but we haven't sold our house yet. So having some of these things in place can make you what we call sale ready. So having all your paperwork, it is boring paperwork, no one enjoys paperwork, but these are things that can really help. Being proactive, so if you have got, make sure you've got your mortgage and principal ready, respond quickly to any requests that you might get from your solicitor once it is all moving, because they'll ask. The longer you take to give them the information they need, the longer the whole thing's going to take. And stay in close contact with your estate agent. They should be providing updates and just checking on the whole process as it goes on as well. And don't be afraid to ask any questions. If there's something you're not sure about, just ask. And that sort of clarity helps to reduce stress.
I've always been curious, Craig. Is it better to sell first or buy first, or if you have the luxury, do it at the same time?
Yeah, and it all really depends on people's circumstances. If you're selling first, that gives you a clear budget of what you can have for your next property, especially if you're looking to move into a bigger property. And it puts you in a stronger buying position. If you've sold your house, then you're going to be able to get the whole moving process quicker. So that gives you a stronger buying position. But like I said, it depends on your circumstances. A fellow agent of mine recently, they had a buyer or a person come and view a property he had for sale. They'd not been looking for a property. They weren't even thinking about moving. Saw it in a Facebook group, an advert for the property. They were looking for plant pots at the time. Fell in love with the property and then put an offer in to buy it. And he ended up selling their house too because they needed to sell it. But not everybody who can potentially buy a house is necessarily looking to move. So it does depend on people's circumstances. But like I said, if you've got all your paperwork and all the boring stuff ready, tucked away if a circumstance like that happens, you're already in a good position. Some people manage to will do both at once, so they'll sell and buy. So it's good to just have good coordination between your estate agent and your solicitor as well.
And packing, okay. I get the feeling, Craig, you're quite an organised person, and you've mentioned it a few times and how important it is to be organised. Any tips about packing and getting organised in a way that's not so stressful? Yeah,
the first thing to do is get in touch with some removals companies because they'll be able to help as well. But they'll help give you some little tips and hints, but. One of the main things is because it's a good opportunity to get rid of things that you don't want anymore, because you don't want to move a load of things just to then go, well, we'll take this to the tip now, or have to sell it. You don't want to be throwing things away, but you don't want to move more than you need to. Do it room by room, and label your boxes correctly, colour code things. When you know where you're going to buy, there should be a floor plan for that property. They're not always 100% accurate, so be careful. But that's a good, once you've got the floor plan, or even ask the agent or sellers, can we just measure it up again? We've got some furniture we think might fit, but let's just measure it again. I don't think the seller would mind, just so we know it's going to fit. Because then you can plan where you're going to put things. You don't want to arrive and think, right, we've got this really big heavy thing, like a sofa, or where we're going to put it. If you've got lots of electronics, take photos of how they're all plugged in and label all your cables correctly, because then you know exactly what's going on when you move into your new property. Don't try and overpack boxes, because if your back's going to thank you if you don't, especially if you're doing the moving yourself. And keep essentials separate, like phone chargers, toothbrushes, kettle, because when you get into your new property, you're going to want a cup of tea. You're going to want to, you're going to want to brush your teeth at the end of the day. You don't want to be hunting around for those things. So you can have one box which is just full of your essentials. So and any food and bits and pieces you're going to need, rather than hunting around a load of boxes thinking, where have I put that?
Yeah, that's really good advice. Just to have the stuff you need available to you. Sorry, I said that's very good advice. Just basically having everything you need the day you move available to you. Otherwise, as you say, it can be more stressful just looking for things. And any kind of advice for, families with young children, pets? Anything that you can share with us, Craig?
Yeah, it's difficult because, I've got a young son and trying to keep him from running around my feet all day. Especially if you're going to be moving house. But try and if you can, try and keep to any routines that you do have, because it makes it easier for them, for your children and pets. This is a time when you've got to hopefully rely on other people as much as you can, and if you're lucky, you hopefully have some friends or people who can look after the kids or pets on the day, because that gives you just time just to focus on what you're doing. If you pack a first night box with snacks and toys and things that your children can make them happy, then that will help you settle in quickly without having to hunt through all the boxes for that.
So loads of handy tips there. So we'll be back to Craig after a short break. So Craig, right, I'm not an expert on moving, and that's why I find this subject very interesting. But are there any helpful tools or services out there that people might want to know if they're thinking of moving?
Yeah, so the obvious ones, like removal companies, they play a massive part in the moving process. But cleaners, there's plenty of good cleaners out there for both sides, whether you're just want to get your house up to scratch if you're selling it, or if they're moving into a new property. There's some really good companies out there that can do carpet cleaning and things like that to make it look as good as new. It's amazing what some people can do. There's also some change of address services online that you can go and find, and they'll help update all your utility addresses all in one go, because that can be quite a time consuming and not really fun process of going through all of your accounts and updating all your address information. And there's also postal forwarding service that you can find online, so it will forward all your old post from your old property as well. But you can normally, the agent should be able to just provide a checklist of different things as well that can help.
And I know moving can be a very exciting time, even if it's stressful, but I imagine you come across people and it can be very emotional, particularly if you've lived in the property a long time, or for some people you mightn't want to move. You might be getting divorced, or for financial reasons you may have to move. Any advice, Craig?
Yeah, I think what I try and tell people is, acknowledge that it's okay to feel emotional, because it is a big deal. And like you said, you can be excited, or people can be sad. Well, you can feel both at the same time. You can feel sad for the place you're leaving, but excited for the new property that you're moving to. So take photos, say goodbye properly to your old house, and try and focus on the new chapter ahead. But like you said, not everybody chooses to move, or sometimes you're forced into a situation. So it could be for financial reasons, or people getting divorced, or even if you're having to sell property of a loved one that's been left to you. So that is a really emotional time, and it's important to have an agent that understands it's not just a transaction. This is a difficult time in people's lives, and it's trying to make it easy for them. But even from my own experience, my father sold the home that I grew up in, moved closer to me, so that was good. But it was a lot of emotion tied to him selling the house I grew up in. But I knew there was a family moving into that, so I was just happy that there's an opportunity for a new family to start their next chapter. So I'd like to say life is made up of chapters. They're not always easy, but they always bring opportunities. So you can always use that to make the next chapter exciting.
And it sounds as though having a good, having a good estate agent that you can work with is very important.
Yeah, you want to work with someone who's got your interests in mind, and just who's sort of someone there to help you, and even with the emotional support. It's really important to keep communication going, because this allows you to sort of, spot any potential issues early and keeps it on track. But keeping people up to date is really important, because not knowing what's going on is what causes a lot of people stress. And customers don't want to be chasing what's going on. It's important. They need to know what's happening. And B, empathy is really important. It's not just a transaction. This is a big moment in someone's life, and there's a lot riding on it. So when things get tough, it's important to be there for people. Some people don't always have a clear vision to begin with, so they might not know what their next stage is. So for me, it's about having a long-term relationship with people. I can help them early on, even if it's a year before they think they might want to move, but it helps them. If I can help in any way, then that's always a good plus for me. I like to help people, and that's why I wanted to do this as well. It's important for the agent to act as the go-between between the buyers, the sellers, the solicitors. It just takes a lot of stress off people's plates, so they don't have to do any chasing. It's all done for them.
So, Craig, if I'm looking for an estate agent, would I just go online and pick the first estate agent that pops up, or do you have any particular advice about picking an estate agent?
Yeah, it's first thing is decide what is your motivation to move, and you want someone who's got your interests at heart. It's not just about getting your house listed and then done and not talking to you, and they move on to the next one. You want someone who's going to be there throughout the whole process for you, understanding about the property and what's important to you and what's important to the buyers. Ask them how they'll market your home, not just put it on the market. A lot of properties can just be quick listing, stick it up and just see what happens. But it's important to have a marketing strategy in place, and also to have a plan if that isn't going according to what you hoped it would do, because no one's got a crystal ball. But have a plan B as well. So ask the agents what's their completion rate as well, because that's what it's about. It's about getting their house sold, not just getting a for sale sign out at the front. And then just make sure they offer clear, realistic valuation, which is based on the market and comparable properties which have sold. It's not just a high number. If you get told, "Oh, my house is worth," big numbers flashed in front of you. You want it to be realistic, because it's really important to manage people's expectations. Everyone wants to get lots of money for their property, but it's only dictated by what the market is currently. People are buying at that moment in time. So for me, it's really important to have that clear information for people, so they know what their property is worth. And they can be prepared for what they're going to get for that.
And Craig, you've joined us tonight, so how do people contact you?
They can find me online. We've got mobile, so my mobile is 073. I have to remember off the top of my head. I only just changed the phone. But you can email me as well, craig.burkett@kwuk.com, or they can find me on the Keller Williams website, or you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Well, I have your phone number here, and it's 07359 252 763.
Thank you.
So, Craig, right, what I am taking away tonight is being organised, have your paperwork in order. When you're packing, to be quite sensible about it, and definitely have a box available that has things you need on the day, that like having a kettle and a cup of tea, maybe a mattress, something that will make it less stressful. But just now, Craig, before we finish up, a golden piece of advice to someone planning to move right now, and I'm putting you on the spot, who hasn't a clue.
Well, hopefully the people who've been listening tonight, that's helped them try and understand the process. And just understanding the process helps you to manage your expectations. Because if you know what's going to come up, you know there's not going to be anything that comes up and trips you up. So you know what to be prepared for. But like I said, plan early. Communication is really important, and don't be afraid to ask for help. So yeah, a bit of preparation up front really does make the whole process smoother and much less stressful. And utilising reservation agreements as well to reduce that fall through rate is that's a really good important tip I would suggest, because it's not very common in the industry at the moment.
So, Craig, it's been a pleasure talking to you tonight. Thank you very much for all your advice, and I do hope you come and join us again next time. You might tell us what to do after the move when we're thinking of the next move.
Thank you.
Good night from me. It's Karen Adams, and I'll be back again in a couple of weeks.